So I think we're ready to get started. We got a lot of ground to cover. So again, use the Q&A feature, please, to interact on this. It's going to be a lot better for me than chat. My name is David Oyatamari. It's good to be with you. Hopefully, this is not your first time seeing my face. I've seen you on the Hawaii Business Pivot workshops. Some of you are also Ecclesia Capital Mastermind Group participants. Welcome. What we're going to talk about this afternoon is creating market uniqueness. This is a very specific topic in a pivot, right? Really what it refers to as how do you differentiate yourself from everyone else, gets to brand. Okay, so here's what what's on tap for this next 60 minutes or so. We're going to cover a little bit of videos. I'm going to cover some videos on the Value Builder system. John Warlow, again, I'll share a little bit about what that is once again. Some discussion, it's discussion through the Q&A section, okay? And then I'm gonna go over what's called the Positioning Planner tool. So for those of you who already have access to this module because you're a mastermind participant, this is an opportunity we can go through it as a group together. For everyone else who is on this webinar today, you will be receiving access to the Positioning Planner tool, or it's actually the whole module of these videos that I'll be showing today, so you can watch it again at your leisure. You'll also be able to go in and do the Positioning Planner tool for your business. All right. I have a question from someone before I dive in, just a little bit of housekeeping. The deep dives listed on the website seem to only be the Scaling Your Business workshop. Can you please tell us where to go for growing your business? Yes, I apologize. There is a glitch on the website, but if you go into the register button, it takes you to a different site, and those are actually accurate. So it's a little wonky. I'm not sure why that happened on the Hawaii Biz Pivot website. So if you just click on that, you'll see that there are actually those different webinars you can register for. Okay, so I apologize. Looks like Gina had sent you the other location, which is the Chamber of Commerce website. So that's actually that is working well. The Hawaii Biz Pivot one is not at this moment, but it works. It's just a little wonky. So I apologize for that, Kristen. So let's get started on this. Again, what the framework for the content for what we're talking about for these pivot tools, and today we're talking about creating market uniqueness, is the Value Builder system. Once again, the Value Builder system was developed by a gentleman named John Warlow. John Warlow created a best-selling book. He wrote a best-selling book called Built to Sell, and it's like in the Fortune 10 books that business owners need to read. It's a really easy read. I would highly recommend it. But he also created all his tools and systems online. So my company is one that actually is certified to deliver this. And what I've done specifically for this environment, the pivot, I've selected several of them for your use. So welcome. And there are 12 different modules. The one I'm covering this afternoon is called Monopoly Control, Module 6. I like to call it Creating Market Uniqueness. John calls it Monopoly Control. It's all the same thing, just a little different terminology. So really, we're going to start off with talking about what is the value of having a uniqueness in the marketplace. He'll talk about Warren Buffett, one of the greatest sort of investors, valuers of companies in the world. And he talks about having a deep and wide moat, meaning something that someone else cannot easily replicate. So we'll go over that video. And just remember that the Value Builder system looks at companies through the lens of an acquirer of your business. This doesn't mean that you are necessarily in the market to sell your business right now. What this means is it's an objective look at your company, right? Because the value of your company is really summed up by what someone is willing to pay for it. So that is the lens we're looking for. So if you hear the terminology, an acquirer is looking for XYZ, that's the perspective we're coming from, okay? So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. And let's go and get into the first video called Value of a Moat. In other words, what's the value of creating market uniqueness. Here we go.
So when it comes to people who value businesses, arguably there is no better valuator than Warren Buffett, right? So the world-class, most famous investor of all time. And one of the things he looks for when he makes an investment, when he makes a decision to buy a company, is he's looking for companies with what he calls a deep and wide competitive moat around them. Now, you may be asking the question, why? Why does Warren Buffett care about how deep and wide the competitive moat is around the companies that he's considering investing in? And what it comes down to is when you've got marketing differentiation, when customers believe what you've got is truly differentiated, it gives you pricing authority. And when you've got pricing authority, it means you can, within reason, set the price for what it is that you sell. And when you've got control over your pricing, it gives you better margins. Guess what? Better margins, therefore, lead to more marketing dollars. And more marketing dollars allows you to invest more in sales and marketing, which allows you to differentiate your product and service even further, which triggers this sort of domino effect, which gives you more pricing authority. And it starts to build on itself, where, again, to what Warren Buffett talks about is having this kind of deep and wide competitive moat where it becomes very difficult for a competitor to compete with you because you've got real marketing differentiation. And we see that play out in terms of the value of the businesses that we work with. When we look at, again, lifetime of the tool, we've seen that the average multiple offered our users is 3.76 times their pre-tax profit. Yet when we isolate just the cohort of customers and business owners who say they've got a virtual monopoly on the product they sell, guess what? They get a much higher multiple. And the reason for that is acquirers buy things they cannot easily replicate. If you've got a product or service that has a commodity that they can easily replicate by undercutting your pricing, they're not going to buy your company. They're just going to set up to compete with you, most likely. If, however, they look at your business and say, there's some secret sauce there, there is a competitive moat that we need to cross in order to compete with this company, that's when they get very interested in acquiring your business because you've got something that they cannot easily replicate.
So that's the crux of what we're talking about today is creating that secret sauce, communicating that secret sauce, why and how people are going to think of you, your business, and or your product or service as something unique in the marketplace. Because if you are a dime a dozen, you're at risk, right? That it's going to get even more hyper competitive in an environment where now people are, people that were focusing just on, let's say, the tourism business are now going to go after local business, and you were doing local business and you're going, uh-oh, right? So this is why this is going to be even more important than ever before. If you're someone that it was local and you're now going e-commerce, well, guess what? You're now competing not just with people in the Hawaii market, but you're going to be competing against people all over the world. So it's going to be more and more critical for you to define what is your uniqueness in your business or your product or service. And for those of you who have been through the Business Pivot Workshop, and if you haven't, I would encourage you to join us on Saturday at 10 o'clock. And those of you that have been through my workshops and the mastermind groups, this is going to be familiar to you because these are the 7 fundamental questions that I believe every business needs to ask. And it really will help you start to think through your business again and rebuild your business. And I would say out of these 7 questions, today's deep dive is going to focus on this one. What gives you an enduring competitive advantage, right? Is that, so you have a particular product or service. Your business is known for something, but what exactly will that be? Is that something easy to copy, easy to duplicate? Or is that something that you're going to be unique and ahead of the curve continually? So that's really what we're trying to focus on today. And for what John was talking about, that virtuous cycle, right, is because when you have that kind of power, that brand power, that loyalty, that uniqueness, you now control price. When you control price, you then have higher margins. When you have higher margins, you have more money to spend into marketing. When you have more money into marketing, you can then further spend money on messaging your uniqueness, and the virtuous cycle continues. So that's really the why, the crux of it. I'm going to pause real quickly. Are there any questions about the why? You can throw it in the Q&A. If not, we will continue to the next video, which is going to be focusing on how do you pick that moat, that deep and wide moat that Warren Buffett talked about. Okay? No other questions. I think we're all here. We're all on the same page. We know we got to be unique. Okay, so let's go to the next one.
Okay, so you know the value of your company is going to be impacted greatly by how well differentiated your business is in the marketplace. Again, acquirers don't buy something they could easily replicate. They buy things that are truly differentiated in the marketplace. The next question you might be asking reasonably is, well, how do I do that? How do I go about differentiating my company and making it as valuable as I possibly can be? Well, my experience, there are two ways to differentiate your product or service. Number one, you can come up with a better mousetrap, right? You can create some technology, you can protect it so that you truly have something that is a better mousetrap, something that is a differentiated piece of technology that sets you apart from the competitive set. Now, as I say that, not everybody has a better mousetrap, but you can still differentiate your company. The way you do it is through better marketing. And for a marketing strategy to have teeth, to actually truly differentiate your product or service, it's got to have two factors. Number one, it's got to be something that makes you unique. Obviously, it's got to make you differentiated. Number two, it's got to be something customers care about. And so as you're thinking about a marketing point of differentiation, something that has the potential to give you that monopoly control, what you're looking for is something that meets these two criteria. It's got to be something that makes you unique as well as something people care about. And you can start plotting your ideas on a simple X and Y axis of how well differentiating it is and to what extent customers care. And then you're looking for the attribute that gets up into the top right-hand corner. Let me give you an example of a company that's gone through this process. And it's a company we all know. I'm thinking of Tesla. So in Tesla's case, they launched recently the Model S, right? So Model S was the four-door sedan where they would compete with all the big car companies from Europe and Japan. And so they're competing with brands like Mercedes and BMW. And if you look at the sedans those companies create, they have incredible performance. I mean, 0 to 60 times off the charts, very, very high performance cars. And so when Tesla wanted to enter the marketplace with this high performance sedan, they knew they would be competing head to head with these very, very expensive, very established brands. And so do customers care about high performance? Yes. Could Tesla have chosen to make that their marketing approach? It would be something that customers care about, but it certainly wouldn't have made them unique. When you compare the Tesla Model S with the BMW M5 or Mercedes AMG, you could argue that the performance of those are at parity. And so while it's something customers care about, performance, it's certainly not making Tesla different. So you could say, well, Teslas are made in California. They're designed in California. That's a really interesting point of differentiation because Mercedes and BMW are made in Germany. You could argue that that would make them different. And I think it does make Tesla different. But do customers care where the car is designed? Arguably not. And so we would plot designed in California at the top left of this chart. Then you stumble on zero emissions. And you realize that zero emissions is something that makes them truly unique. Do customers care about zero emissions? Well, there is a faction or a cohort of customers that care deeply about zero emissions. And does it make you different from the other, high performance cars in the marketplace? It does. So when they launched the Model S, you can see their marketing message was zero emissions, zero compromises. If they'd just gone with a high performance message of zero compromises, well, they wouldn't have differentiated themselves. But it was the fact that they had the combination of zero emissions, zero compromises was their one point of differentiation in the marketplace. You don't have to be Tesla in order to come up with something that truly makes you unique. Take a look at Scott Shurdy, founder of Ethos 3. Ethos 3 is a graphic design business. And if you look in the graphic design space, it's a very crowded marketplace. On one end of the spectrum, you've got everyone with a spare bedroom and a Mac computer holding themselves out as a designer on Upwork and Elance. And on the other end, you've got the agencies of record relationships that large, big Procter & Gamble and so forth will strike these relationships with big multinational advertising agencies where they actually contractually can't hire a different agency to do a specific project because they're contractually obliged to use their agency of record. And so Surety looked at this marketplace with these competitive hurdles on either end of the spectrum. And he said, how am I going to build a graphic design business with some scale, some size? And what Surety realized is he needed to find something that made him unique, something that made him really, truly different as a designer. And he chose to focus on designing presentations. So they became one of the world's greatest companies at building PowerPoint and keynote presentations. And that niche in the marketplace makes them unique. It allows them to compete against the freelancers on one end and say, yeah, you could hire a freelancer for $10 or $20 an hour, but they're not going to get you the very best PowerPoint presentations in the world. And likewise, they went to the large companies, Google, NBC, these very large companies, and said, look, you can use your agency of record for generic design services, but we offer something unique your AOR cannot provide, and therefore you should be able to come to us. And so Surety scaled up a multi-million-dollar agency in a space where, frankly, it was tough to enter because he chose one thing to make his business truly unique in the marketplace.
Okay. So that is the last of the videos this afternoon. Any questions? Can you put it in the Q&A for me? Because then from here, we're gonna go into the actual practice of this. But is that clear? Any questions on the why or the how so far? Okay, so in a moment, I'm gonna go through this as in terms of the practice now. So the roll up your sleeves. And like I said, all of you here will get access to the module and you can do this on your own. But this afternoon, I think we're gonna have time to go through a case study with someone live, okay? So this is a little unique over webinar because I can't see anybody and you can't see everybody else. But if you're interested in your business being the case study, I want you to get ready. Get ready to start listing your features and benefits of your product or service or your company. And we'll go through it just like we did here with Tesla cars. And I'll show you exactly how the tool works. And by the end of this, you'll have it all done for you. So whoever's bold enough to step forward, that's your benefit, okay? So be thinking about setting up your features and benefits for your product or service, your company, and you'll be the lucky one. You'll have the group to be able to work with you on this. So here's what we're gonna do. So when we talk about the two axes, you might recall differentiation, level of differentiation, low to high, and also the other axis is the degree to which customers care. So that's what we're looking for. And so what you're looking for is where there's a high degree of differentiation for something that customers really care about. So what the tool is going to do, it's going to ask you on the differentiation axis, why do customers buy from you instead of your competitors? And then it'll say, please list all of the features and benefits that you communicate in the sales and marketing of your products and services, right? So that would be something pretty interesting to start to think through. But oftentimes when I do this with clients, the question comes up, like, well, gee, I don't know. Or people say, well, they buy from me because I give the best service, or we're the friendliest, or something like that. So the pushback I have usually is like, well, how do you know? Have you asked customers point blank? So here's some examples of questions you might want to ask your customers, let's say in a survey. You could say things like, why did you choose us over your other alternatives? What value do we provide that makes you decide to stay with us? If you had to choose a competitor, who would it be and why? These are some questions to really get at the next level of understanding of what makes you different. My background, I've worked in many different companies, most recently at Bank of Hawaii. And one of the things, so one of my roles was I rolled out a lot of the innovation things. So like the new ATMs, the new branches, the new mobile app, the new online banking. And that was stuff that we worked on. And that was part of a deliberate strategy because when you think about banking, banking is pretty commoditized, right? Like it's very difficult to determine what's different from one bank versus the other. And at least when we got together and really put our heads together at the bank, we said that we wanted to differentiate and make our brand on convenience. We wanted to be known as the most convenient bank in Hawaii. And so that's why we invested quite a bit of money in saying we're going to have the most ATMs. It was like 400 at the time. We were the first to introduce the easy deposit or envelope-free ATMs. We went out there and we talked about the mobile app and the iPhone app and Zelle and Apple Pay, and that was all part of the umbrella of convenience for customers. And that was its point of differentiation, right? And so that is the same way when you look at your business, whatever your business might be, that I want you to think about that and how and why, what makes you unique and different, and ask customers, especially your loyal customers. You may want to do a survey with them, an online survey if you have their email addresses, or as you have a relationship with them, ask them. Say, hey, can I ask you a question, right? It's going to sound awkward, right? But why? Tell us why do you shop with us, right? Why the relationship with us versus somebody else? And if you had to go somewhere else, where would you go anyway, right? Because if someone says, well, I don't even know where I would go, that should be a yellow flag to you. Maybe that, the uniqueness you thought you had, maybe it's just awareness, right? So I think this is a really important piece to consider. Similarly, there was I've been quite influenced in the mid 90s by Michael Tracy. Michael Tracy, I actually almost went to work for him many years ago. But he came out with a book called The Discipline of Market Leaders. And I think there's something here that applies to, as you think about what makes your company unique. He called it value disciplines. I would call it sources of differentiation, okay? But here's what it says. The basic premise of Tracy's thesis in the book is that the companies need to be really good at three things, right? Like a threshold of good, just to be competitive. But they need to be uniquely leaders in one. Okay, so I'll say that again. So in his thesis of the discipline of market leaders, he said that companies need to be good at all three of these disciplines to be competitive, but it was one of them that they were leaders in and they're experts at. So what you're looking at here are the three value disciplines. You can translate it here for what we're talking about today is think of it as three sources of uniqueness for your business. Okay, so number one, we start at the top, product leadership. This is really what John was talking about, the better mousetrap. And the example that is classic, I think that a lot of us can relate to, would be Apple. Apple's products, people just somehow feel like the operating system, the iPhone, it's just easier to use. Everything is seamless. Why do people buy those STEM-looking Apple AirPods, right? It's because it just works with the W2 chip. I think now it's called the H2 chip, whatever. It just connects. I don't have Bluetooth dropping, right? Apple products just work well together. And so that is what I mean by product leadership. Another, if we just keep going clockwise around this pyramid here, the other area would be customer intimacy. And this refers to being leaders in personalization, meaning that when you look at your customer, you don't look at them as sort of like one-off purchases. Like they have this little dollar sign in their head that says, oh, that person's good for $25 in my shop. Or, sometimes I've talked to car dealers, right? And I don't know if we have any car dealers today on the webinar, but oftentimes they can look at someone and they'll size you up right away. The good ones will. And they're like, yeah, they're good for the $50,000 vehicle. I know what they're going to buy. I talked to some car dealers and I met them literally for 5 minutes in my former life. And they had already sized me up. They figured out what high school I went to, what part of the island I grew up in, but they're really good. But what it is it's understanding the behavioral dynamics and the profile of your customer, and then being able to sort of relate to them on a very personal level. The example that I think is a real classic one that a lot of us can relate to is a company like Nordstrom. What Nordstrom sells in their department stores often is not that different than what you can find, let's say, in a Macy's, for example. But what makes Nordstrom customers so loyal to them is they're known, their hallmark of what they're really good at is their level of that quality service. And so that's what it means from a customer intimacy standpoint. This is why in many companies today, customer relationship management or CRM tools is an exploding field today, is because it's really about how do you know as much as you can about that customer, but not in a creepy way, be able to use that information to be more useful to them. And so that when the customer has a need or an issue, you don't just think of them as the $25 customer, but you think of them in their total lifetime value to you in that relationship. And that as they come back and they're repeat purchases, that customer is not worth $25. They might be worth $2,500 to you. And that's what we mean by customer intimacy. The other way you can start to define uniqueness in your company is around operational excellence. In other words, this is the value play. This is the good example of this is like Dell Computer, right? So this is the company that operates so efficiently, cost effectively, that their price points can be lower than their competition. And thereby, they still deliver a high quality product. And so the value that they're delivering to their client base is so much greater. And so to really be an expert at this, you have to have a hyper efficient organization. And that's what this refers to. So when you think about how do I differentiate my business, whatever your business is today, I would want you to be good at all three now. I mean, you can't ignore. It's like the weightlifter who just lifts weights with one arm. Okay, you don't want to do that, or never works legs. So you really want to be balanced, but be an expert and a leader in one. And maybe that'll help you determine what your differentiation pieces are going to be. Okay. The other way to think about differentiation at a more granular level around product and service is to think about it in terms of these questions. What are my direct competitors offering today? So an example of this is, let's just say, for example, Domino's Pizza, who happens to be doing very well in the pandemic situation, right? They look at it and they say, well, I have a certain type of pizza, but what is my uniqueness compared to Pizza Hut? Or what's my uniqueness compared to Papa John's or all these other pizza places out there? What are they offering? And so oftentimes, if you're looking to differentiate on a particular product, you will see different pizza companies, for example, talk about a product that's unique to them, cheesy crust or cheeseburger topping pizza, something that is unique to them. But I also would say, besides looking at your direct competitors, also look at your indirect ones as well. So Domino's doesn't just compete with pizza delivery chains. They're competing against anybody else who does meal delivery. So you'll see that they're competing absolutely against everybody who's on DoorDash, right? Anybody who has a home delivery service or a meal for several people, 3 or 4 people, that becomes their competitor as well. So when you're looking for differentiation or how you're different or unique product and service wise, you need to look, I think, both at your direct competition, but also look broadly. And the way you look broadly is you step back and you say, what business am I in, right? Instead of saying, so let's say, I think one of the folks here said, I'm a jewelry shop. And you might say, well, my competition is other jewelers. And then you can say, well, other jewelers don't have this piece of jewelry that I offer, right? That is my uniqueness, so to speak. But I will also say, but your indirect competitors are everyone else who's competing for that same dollar. That might be in jewelry. It could be something outside of or related to jewelry, right? What does jewelry represent to someone? Is it a fashion statement? Is it a brand identity item? other products and services that provide people a little bit of their brand identity, a little bit of a fashion is going to be competing with you. And they might not be in the jewelry business, right? So that's an example of how to broaden your scope so that you can really start to think about how you're really unique and different in the market. And then you want to ask yourself, hey, is what I'm doing, is the product or service that I'm offering easy for someone else to copy? And to the extent that it is easy for someone to copy, it's not an enduring competitive advantage. The best thing you're going to be able to do is you're going to have to outrun your competition. And the challenge with that is that those with deeper pockets oftentimes catch up really fast. So if you have something that's easy to copy, I would say think about some other source of differentiation. Otherwise, you're going to be in this race continually, and the deeper pocket usually wins. Another thought around product-specific differentiation. Now, for those of you that are marketing majors or have some background in market research, you'll know this thing called conjoint analysis, okay? We're not going to go into that here. I am definitely not an expert at conjoint analysis. It's a fancy way that marketers will go into. It's a statistical technique to identify and quantify what features and benefits are worth or valued to a particular customer. And so it's a pretty involved process, and it will cost money and it takes time to do this, okay? And this is what large companies like Procter & Gamble are doing to determine, what are the feature and benefits that are valued to a particular target market. What I'm going to say to you is, for your size business, for many of you, you don't have to do conjoint analysis to get the broad strokes of what is important to a customer. And what you're going to be able to do is starting with what problem and exactly is my solution solving, right? And by problem, I don't mean that someone's literally got a problem, but like more broadly speaking, what is the need that you're meeting, right? So those of you who've seen my business pivot webinars, you've seen already that there are folks like in the poke bowl industry, there's people in Korean barbecue, and there's liquor stores. And all three of those businesses were doing better post-COVID than pre-COVID. And what I would argue is that when you broaden the vision of what kind of business you're in, this is how you get to understand truly what the need that you're meeting or the problem you're solving, right? So the poke bowl company is not just meeting needs for poke bowl, people who want to eat poke bowl. The poke bowl company is really in the market to solve, let's say, affordable luxury, right? That was what I was mentioning in that webinar, is that perhaps people who love fresh fish, but in this environment, maybe their budgets are a little, smaller to be able to go to that sushi restaurant or to afford to buy the 25 per pound ahi, but they can afford a $12 poke bowl, right? That's what we're talking about. Or that Korean barbecue, if they just say we're in the Korean barbecue business, I would say step back and say, well, maybe they're in the budget stretching convenient takeout business. And that's the problem that they're truly solving. And just like the liquor store is not solving just, I sell liquor, but they're solving the fact that bars are closed. And so the broader problem that they're solving is that people still want their alcohol, and they're going to do it at home. And so they're going to do it in an affordable way. Hence, tequila and vodka sales are up 75% over 2019. So that's what I mean by that, is really step back and ask yourself and your business, what exactly are we solving in terms of the customer's problem or need? And that'll also be a clue on what is really valuable to customers, okay? Now, then you might say, well, okay, I've thought this through, David, but is there some other way that we can actually be more quantitative and really sure on what customers really value? And I would say the other way to look at it, which is probably the best way, is to use pricing to discern what people truly value. And what I mean by this is, let's say you have several different products and you have slight changes in the different products. So let's say you're a clothing manufacturer and you make shirts or something, okay? And you're trying to determine what people really value about your shirts. You could make slight subtle differences in terms of maybe the material, the colors, the print, and start to price them a little differently, okay? So it has to be discrete differences, but subtle enough, right? You don't want to create something so wildly different that it's non-comparable. But let's just say men's shirts, for example, right? Men's Aloha shirts. And you might adjust things like material, like I said, color, a little bit of the pattern size, something like this, and then start to change the pricing. And then you can see what happens to the demand just based on some of the tweaks in the variables. That will start to give you a little clue on what people are really valuing. A good example I will tell you, and I have not spoken to this company, so I'm not positive, but this is my observation, is Ren Spooner shirts were really, really popular and still are, I believe. And one of the things that they were known for was the Spooner cloth, right? And then you start to see Ren's also branch into other materials. Well, the question would be, if I was Ren's, I'd wonder, gee, how much are people buying our product because of that Spooner cloth? And then for those of you men out there who wear Ren Spooners, you know that it's great because you throw it in the wash, you take it out of the dryer, and you probably don't have to iron it, right? And so what is the problem that particular product is solving is the convenience. Guys who don't like to iron their shirts would be a good example, right? So that's what I'm talking about, is there's little nuances in your product that you can then start to discern, is there something different about it that really people start to value. Let me then give you an example here. The easiest way to see this is when you find a company that has created a set of products where it's the typical product placemat with different prices. Okay, so I'm going to walk through this for you. So here is one that I think a lot of us can relate to, which is why I selected it. This is Turbotax. And so Turbotax has 4 different versions of Turbotax. They have a free edition, they have a deluxe, hey, most popular, and then they have Premier. I don't really know what that means. Quite frankly, I don't know what the difference between deluxe and Premier would be just on its name. Self-employed. So I'm thinking maybe that has something to do with business. Okay. So how does Intuit, the owners of Turbotax, start to really discern what value people are placing on the different features and benefits of their product, right? Because they could have just lumped it all into one product and said, this is Turbotax, and use what you want in it, and here's a flat fee, right? Like $100, have at it. Instead, what they do is they separate out different features bundles in their products. And so let's see what they come up with. So I look at here and I'm starting to look at, maybe there's a difference. Free sounds cheap. And then deluxe and premier, similar. I'm not really sure. Self-employed might be about that. Then I look at the price. Well, okay, $60, 90, 120. So somehow there's $30 of value embedded in Premier and $30 of value embedded in self-employed. Let's figure out what that is. So if you look at the difference between free and deluxe, I noticed these words that they deliberately use called, they say deductions. So immediately I go, I see. For $60 more, they're saying to me, they're going to help me get higher deductions on my taxes, lower my taxes. Okay, so maybe that's worth it to me, because if I'm someone that thinks like, yeah, I definitely have a lot of deductions here. Getting this deluxe software now is going to give me more value than the $60 I'm going to pay because the free version doesn't do this for me. Okay, then let's look at Premier. So Premier, they have investment, rental property, cryptocurrency. These are the words that jump out at us. So I go, so for $30 more now above the deluxe package, if I'm someone who has a lot of investments, I have rental property, maybe that's what this one's for. So you see what they're starting to do is they're starting to disaggregate, and they're saying to you that the value that customers have is $30 more or 50% more by having investments in rental property. Okay, then they do it again in this self-employed. So small business, industry specific, self-employment, the 1099 miss, which only those who hire independent contractors when you know and care what the heck that is. Got it. So that's what this is. So now it's a $30 more if I'm a small business owner. Okay. And some of you is like, yeah, okay, well, David, but look, that's what they said up here. Now, deductions and credits and investment and rental property and business income and expenses. Yeah. Well, guess what? That's because this is to me, this is a savvy, very savvy marketing company. Product marketers, they know exactly what they're doing, which is why they put those in the labels for those of us that read the fine print, right? But if you didn't, you would just immediately look at the big bold print, go, I don't know what's the difference. I know there's different prices. And then you're kind of hunting, okay? What am I saying? As you start to think about what features and benefits you're going to put into your products as a differentiator to understand what customers truly value, this is a clear way that they're doing it, right? $30 more value for deductions, $30 more value for investments in rental property, $30 more value if they want small business support. So that's the kind of concept, okay? So hopefully that's making sense. Now, last week, Monday, we had 3 really savvy business people who are really good marketers as well on our restaurant pivot panel. And one of them, I'll go through all 3 of them real quick because I thought it was really interesting takeaways. One of them was Mark Nezu. He's the director of operations at G Lion, who is the owner of the iconic Hy's Steakhouse. And these are some examples of what they're doing in terms of really understanding what is unique about what Hy's Steakhouse offers. And this is what Mark did. He said, look, what are we known for? Fine dining is absolutely getting crushed right now in the pandemic environment. But he said, what are we known for? What is our unique quality? And I remember talking to Mark and I said, you know, when I close my eyes and I think about Hy's Steakhouse, you know what I see? I see the tuxedo. And I think the tuxedo is so iconic for the service that I get at Hy's Steakhouse. For those of you who have eaten at Hy's, I think you know what when I say your water glass never goes below half full, right? I mean, they're like on it. And so what is he trying to do then? So he said, well, you know, David, what we try to do is we try to understand how do we bring that level of experience that people want into this take home version. And what they created is the Hy's Prime Butcher Shop and Market and the Catering by Hy's. So what they do is they take the quality that they're known for and they put it into these kits. So here's a boozy burgers for 2, right? Or this Chiave broiled filet mignon dinner for 2, and there's one for 4, and slow roasted prime rib, and now their complete turkey dinner is sold out, right? But what are they doing? They're not just selling food, right? They're not just selling quality food, but what they're doing is they're trying to package the whole experience that people have come to experience from Hy's, and they're delivering it in just a different channel, right? And that's how the uniqueness is executed, you folks. If he just said, look, we're a steakhouse, so we're going to take all of this and put it in a styrofoam container, I can guarantee you they would not be sold out and they would be having a much harder time. Then we had Roy Yamaguchi, and Roy said something interesting. He said, you know, the locations that are doing well for Roy's are the ones in their neighborhoods. So like on Oahu, his iconic Hawaii Kai location, he's been around, I think he said since 1988, if I'm not mistaken. And then the one in Ko'olina, and they're doing well. And what they're doing, which is also fascinating, is he's finding every day they have these specials that really appeal to that local market that they're sitting in. And so what is Roy positioning in his brand uniqueness is, he's like, people want familiarity. The highest selling items are the products that they're known for. And so he'll put it up there and put it on a special during the week. And then even on the weekends, he'll have like a family meal kit because, you know, whoever's the cook, mom or dad, is tired and doesn't want to cook on the weekend. They want to, you know, little splurge, little happy on the weekend. So that was really interesting about how he's defining his uniqueness. He's not just another restaurant, but he's saying, I'm going to tailor it to the taste that I know in my local market and what I'm known for. Then there was Jeremy Shigekane, and Jeremy is the executive chef now at Mavro and M by Chef Mavro. And what was really fascinating about Jeremy is he has this marketing mind, And he says, you know, we have three brands really we're running. We have Chef Mavro, which is the sit down, multiple course, fine dining meal. But you know, that has been challenged, obviously. But just so happened he had already launched M by Chef Mavro. And the M by Chef Mavro was taking that same kind of quality ingredients that they're known for at Chef Mavro, but making it into like an a la carte menu and also making it available for takeout. And that was really fascinating to me that he said, what do we, you know, what is it that we're really known for? How are we going to differentiate ourselves? If we're just known for fine dining and dine in and three-course meal or whatever, he goes, we're done. So how does he take the essence, the brand of Chef Mavro, and extend it into this takeout environment? And this is where he's come up with some of these things, like the gourmet cooking CSA box, where they bake their fresh breads at Chef Mavro, and they include that baguette in with this high quality produce that they get from the farmers. And then you'll see that he also has this other brand called M Brasserie, which is like a kind of like a in France, I guess it's like a, you know, like a bar with takeout, you know, food, like appetizer food. I guess in the Japanese world, it's like the izakaya, you know, that kind of stuff. And so what he did is he started to come up with this M Brasserie family meal Saturday, and it's like a kit of all these different tasting items that you might get in a brasserie. So super fascinating what these guys are doing, right? They're defining their uniqueness, crafting this brand and saying, okay, so here's how we're different, like Chef Mavro, known for high quality, high end French inspired foods, right? And then he's like, what do people care about? People care about convenience, quality, value. So I don't want to dilute the Chef Mavro brand, which is really not so much of value as much as like high end experience, but I'm going to create a sub brand to allow that convenience and that value play to come in. So super interesting and fascinating stuff. We got another panel coming up on next Thursday, the 12th, with Michelle and Wade from MW, John Matsubar and Feast, and Kevin Surahel again from Mido. And you're going to see how they're also pivoting and creating some market uniqueness in their environment. So let me sum it up, right? So for what we just saw for the first panel, right? The differentiation was this black tie experience. You know, we kidded with Mark that maybe his takeout boxes should be in the shape of a tuxedo, a black tuxedo or something, you know? But again, to really create that experience and vision. Chef Jeremy had talked about, they really wrestled very hard with how do they plate this nice meal in the boxes that are take home. He had to find the right takeout containers. He had to figure out how they were going to plate it differently, because that you eat with your eyes before you eat with your mouth, right? So that was part of it. You know, I mentioned to you that Chef Roy talked about the importance of familiarity of the comfort food. And then they all had some version of a meal kit. And then certainly the M by Chef Mavro and Highs has a sub-branding differentiator, right? They're going after different segments of the market with their sub-brand, which I thought was brilliant. And then you look at the customer care side. So again, you're looking for what's differentiating, and now you're also looking at what do people really care about: familiarity, value, convenience, and just like the Poke Bowl, they're just looking for a little happy. They're looking for, you know, maybe we can't go and take the family out for a nice meal, but we can do a nice takeout meal kit, and that will be something that they can differentiate on. So when you see the intersection of the left column and the right column, that's the upper right corner. And that is where you're seeing these successful companies be able to pivot and create uniqueness, right? So you're going to see like a really nice experience comfort food meal kit that has menu items that are very familiar to people. The price point is of high value, right? Because now it feeds maybe 4 people, and it's convenient takeout, and it creates a little happy. So there you see the intersection of what I think they're doing a phenomenal job in that. So I'm going to pause there. Wow, time really flew. Any questions that you might have? One of the challenging things about these webinars is I cannot read any nonverbal communication. So I'm hoping this is resonating with you all. If not, tell me that as well, and I'm happy to adjust. Question, do we know any results from these campaigns? I'm there considering flying to Oahu for the French style market bag. Yeah. So I would say this, nobody's out of the woods that I'm aware of, right? Like I said, there are some examples like the Poke Bowl, the Korean barbecue, the liquor stores that are doing better post-COVID compared to pre-COVID. But what I will tell you is these owners, operators are doing way better than some of those that maybe didn't pivot, right? They didn't think about how am I unique, and they were just trying to take what they always did and put it into a takeout box. I think those restaurants really struggled, and businesses in the same manner who just said, well, I just got to do what I was always doing, but kind of shoehorn it into the new environment. They're struggling. This is an opportunity, I would say, to really rethink your business and think about how you can be creative. But yeah, check out the Chef Mavro French style market bag. It's brilliant. Fresh baked baguette and high quality produce straight from the farm. I think he also has his cheeses, and if you like that stuff, that's the place to go, no doubt. So every single one of you here logged in today will have access to this tool. It's called Monopoly Control, Module 6. I'm going to broaden it so you can see. There you go. I have all the modules here, but you will only see Monopoly Control and Module 1, which everyone gets by default. And then what you'll see here is that you can create your own exercise to go through this. So if someone wants to volunteer, throw it in the Q&A. I'll be happy to put your feature benefits, and we'll do it live in the last 5 minutes or so. I'll give a minute to see if anybody's brave enough to throw it in there. Otherwise, I'm just going to make stuff up. Okay, I'm going to make stuff up then. Okay, so let's say you're like an ad agency, okay? And you're going to put in here things like, like maybe high quality, oops, let me see here. Right, high quality logo, a feature of ours. We're like design experts, and competitive price point. Okay, so whatever your feature benefit is, either your business level or product service level, this is what you'll put in here. So maybe high quality logo experts, graphic design experts. Okay, something like this. Okay, so that's your first step, and then you'll say, okay, I'm going to rank the degree to which we're unique in the marketplace, right? So I'm just going to make an example. Say, oh, you know what? We are the most competitive priced in the marketplace, okay? Because we're just hyper efficient. We don't charge the same high prices, whatever the case might be. Then we're logo people, okay? And then we also do other graphic design, okay? So that would be kind of how that thing might lay out. And then it says to which extent do your customers really care, right? So people, you might say, they love high quality logos, graphics, but really, I go back to here again. It's like, it's really the competitive price point, right? Right now, people are struggling. COVID, they really want value, and they're looking for competitively priced graphic design. Okay, so you see what we did, right? What we did was we ranked differentiation of feature benefit, and we ranked customers valuing that particular feature benefit. That's all we did. And what the tool will do is just plot it for you. Okay, so you'll see just by what I did, the one that is no surprise is the one we selected the highest ranked, which was the competitive price point. High degree to which customers care, high degree of differentiation. Okay, so here you can see that. And so what does this mean? So when you start to create market uniqueness for your company right now, and you're trying to think about what's your brand message and how are you going to go out and change your sales and marketing materials to do this brand pivot, that's what you would start with. Just like the Tesla example, you would say, okay, we're a competitively priced fill in the blank, right? So in this example of a market or a graphic design agency, this actually would be something that you would lead with, because this is your uniqueness. You would say that we create affordably priced graphic design, maybe logos, right? And then that's kind of how you start to, you figure it out. So I just did a quick and dirty, but you can imagine that for your business, you might have 5, 6 different feature benefits. And then it's going to force you to just rank it, just sort it, rank it, and then it'll plot. And then you can look at this and go, huh, and maybe you disagree with it, then you can go back and change it and readjust. And then from there, it's just a starting point for you to create this market uniqueness, all right? So any questions you have for me as we're running right up until the hour? Was this helpful? Hopefully, folks, I really hope it helped you in some way to start to think about your business a little differently, how to create uniqueness in your business, maybe your product or service. Oh, good, thank you. If you're thinking about, I don't know the feature benefit, sometimes you got to ask your customers directly, right? Or ask your colleagues or friends, and someone just says, hey, you know what, like, what is it about my business, when you think of my business and the feature and benefit we provide, what comes to mind for you? Put that in the tool here, and then again plot it, okay, between differentiation and customer value. Sometimes you say, oh, people really value this, like performance, right? Like the Tesla example. But you're like, no, but everybody does that. So I'm not competing. So like, I got to find something else. There's something else why I am in business. And oftentimes you'll find your loyal customers could be a really good source of insight. Or sometimes it's a good friend or spouse or partner or something like that who'll be real honest with you and be like, well, yeah, I think this is what it is. Okay. So thank you, Kristen, Fred, Lori. I really appreciate your feedback. Jennifer, Ipo, thank you. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to put my email address in the window, and I sent it to, well, Gina will send it out to you guys. Feel free to contact me. But what you'll see from David at ecclesiacapital.com, if you're not already in one of my mastermind groups, and any groups, you will see an email from me with login credentials with module 6. You get to play with this yourself. You get to watch all the videos again if you want. There's also an FAQ in there, which is very controversial FAQ, which is, can service be a source of differentiation, right? John Warlow, the guy who created the system, will actually say service cannot be a source of differentiation. And his point being that service is only something that you have to experience first. So it can't be something that you market and sell. And in marketing technical language, that's called a credence good. Credence good are things like a doctor or a dentist or an attorney, a professional, where you have no idea how good they are until you need them for something. So what do? Is we ask friends and family, a good surgeon, a good, whatever, attorney or whatever. You don't really know how good they are until after the surgery. So it's not really a marketing tool. That's John Warlow's contention, if a service can be a differentiator. So he's going to argue that actually what you're going to really need is to come up with the feature benefit and productize yourself so that people can understand how you're different before they actually try your product or service. Okay. Well, again, it's really great. Thank you for spending the afternoon. For those of you who are part of my cohorts already, we can continue the dialogue. For those of you who are not, just look for the email from me or reach out. I started my company. I'm happy to partner with the chamber really to help local businesses and Hawaii thrive. So we're in it together, right? So we're gonna collaborate and help each other get through this stronger, okay? So aloha, everybody. Take care, and wish you guys all the best. Aloha.